Summer's gone cold, I'm wondering why.
Okay, class. Today we're going to cover how to approach your PowerPoint digital story in an expository mode. So first off, let me begin by saying that you will be using the same material from your argumentative research paper, so you don't have to do any further research. You have all the material, but you're going to change the way a little bit in how you present it. And expository is really an explanation. So you're going to explain it rather than postulate an argument. And you're going to use pathos in your narration and in your visuals. So you're going to work on people's emotions to persuade them for them to agree with what you've claimed in your thesis. So it's different. And the reason why I want this approach is I want you to see how your argument paper was more logically and fact driven. And this is based on facts, but you're using emotion to persuade people. So I'm going to switch back and forth with this particular PowerPoint slide. I want to thank the student who allowed me to use this from a previous class I taught. I thought it was a pretty good one. The only critique I have on it is one particular segment where she bunched up all the three main points and there was a lot of writing. I don't want your slides to have a lot of writing. You can have one point, but it's very conflicting when you have writing and narration simultaneously. And the slides are based on narration and imagery. That's the only critique I have. And keep in mind that this particular presentation doesn't cover the amount of slides I required. I changed it because I was receiving maybe like 2 slides, which is not an acceptable level for a PowerPoint presentation. And then I was receiving some which had a large amount. And then it's too fast. The screen is, moving too quickly. If you go over the limit, that's fine, but you really shouldn't go under the limit, and you'll see why clearly in this particular presentation, why 10 is a pretty well-rounded number. So anyway, this is the introductory page, but I'm going to temporarily switch to the rubric, and you see all the points here. I want to cover and explain to you how this student did an exceptional job. So please, if you haven't watched the slide, it's 3 minutes or something like that, watch it first because we're just going through the slides. So the student's delivery was excellent. She was very comfortable and knowledgeable with the information. She didn't read directly from the paper. She knew the material, so she can speak freely about it. And that's what you're going to strive for with your paper. She has very organized PowerPoint slide. It progresses logically. You have an intro, the main points, and the conclusion. Be mindful you do not have to do your rebuttal in here because, again, you're trying to now persuade the audience. You don't want other points of views. So this is where I feel, even though it's well done, she congested all her main points in one slide. It might be nicer to break them apart because there's too much written information in there. And we'll go over that in a second. She offers critical analysis, and your critical analysis is your synthesis where you have your knowledge base, the research that you've done is integrated with your knowledge base, and then you make an inference based on that. Okay? So the visuals, her visuals are exceptional. We'll review that. And the pathos, the persuasion in her speaking and imagery is also very, very well done. So before we go on with the rest, I just want to show you a few things here. So you want to introduce it, what your topic is, and your name. You could put junior sem class, whatever you want. If you're going to use this anywhere else, I would suggest even keeping the sites of the images where you've retrieved them. For my class, I don't require them, but if you're presenting it in another location, you should always be citing your work, including images, but not necessary for this class. So this here is like her introductory, tells you a little bit about something, what you're coming into, so you're just not hit with main points. Like your introductory paragraph for your argumentative paper, you should essentially be talking about your topic here. And she chooses a quote from Albert Einstein. It's a wonderful introduction into her presentation. And you can clearly say that, this presentation will cover blah, blah, blah. So you can, it's a little dry in one respect, but if it helps you stay organized, you can certainly do that. This is where it gets a little messy. There's a lot of written word here. And when you're listening to narration, you can't read and listen at the same time. Now, these are her 3 main points. If she broke these up into separate slides, and this is why I'm saying at least 10, because this one contains 8, if she had 2 other separate slides for these. And even though this is a little wordy, she can certainly put this. Now, you don't need to put on your main points, you don't need to put your source, but it is helpful. If somebody's really interested, they might want to look it up. They'll have the information, and you don't have to state it here. In fact, your slide can say, according to Widerhold, according to Widerhold, people become more reliant. Conversations with family and friends rather than engaging personally. So you can paraphrase it. So you can be, clever with that and use them separately. And you may want to get into the synthesis now or synthesis later. Your format about it it's up to you. This is not the format you need to do. It just needs to be in logical progression. She goes into, the information here, and she uses some graph, which is wonderful, to show you the impacts, positive and negative. You don't have to use a graph, but if you want to, even the one you used in your research paper might be helpful. And you see here, look at the visual images. The narration behind this too is very well done. That's why I said I would like for you to listen to it. I'm just using this as samples. This is very provocative and powerful imagery. So you see the view without even the language. You see what direction she's going in. This is all about persuasion. So let's flip back here for a second. And we've covered all of these, but maybe you'll see a little bit more clearly now, how the visuals really are connected to the content, and she's persuading the audience visually and then also narratively. The critical analysis there, the pathos, obviously. I'm giving you 10 points if you get your paper in on time. That's free 10 points. So try to be timely. I always try to impress that upon the entire class. The length is 3 to 5 minutes. Anything less is not sufficient. You can go a little bit over, but I wouldn't suggest too much more. I think you can capture what you're trying to convey in this point of time for 3 to 5 minutes, and I think it's great. It's lasting, and you have to choose your words wisely. When you have too much time, things get filtered out. The APA citations, the student here does have them, and this is where I want them. You have them from your paper. You just need to post them on the last page. And again, I'm trying to get you into good practice, because if you're going to do any kind of presentation, again, professionally or whatever, if you're using other sources of material, you really need to place that into the PowerPoint slide. And lastly, I'm looking at proper pronunciation and clarity. I actually probably have a little bit of a pronunciation problem today. I'm covering from periodontal surgery, so I'm having difficulty speaking. I'm a little uncomfortable with pain, so you might have picked up on that. And I have my Bronx accent, my old Bronx accent, which I understand we all have accents, and I have some students who are from other countries, foreign exchange students. All I can recommend is if you have any kind of problems, just to speak a little slower. It will really help you work on developing your English language skills or trying to disseminate any accent that you may have, so the audience can clearly understand you. But please take the time to listen to this topic, this PowerPoint on the topic of social media. I think it was well done. You do not have to follow this format, but it has to have a logical order. The student did a really great job. And hopefully this has given you a little bit of help so you don't feel overwhelmed in trying to organize this. You might be able to create a little outline, so to speak, storyboard before you do it. Okay, thank you, and until next lesson.